Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. Let's do the top 5 most iconic side-scrolling shooters of all time, or horizontal shooters, however you want to phrase it. I did one on vertical scrolling shooters before. I will put that link in the description here. Got a lot of views, a lot of great comments, so I thought I would do one on side-scrolling shooters, one of my favorite genres of all time. The 5 most iconic side-scrolling shooter games or franchises. And at the end of this video, you're gonna hear from John Hancock, the Immortal John Hancock, because I reached out to him. I gave him my list of 5 and asked him for his suggestions. And I said, do you agree with my picks? He agreed with all of them but one, and he gave his opinion on which game should take its place. Now, I happen to love his pick because it's one of my favorite side-scrolling shooters, but it just didn't make my cut as far as iconic goes. So let's get to it. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. So, obviously, Defender has to make the cut, right guys? It was really the first side-scrolling shooter as we know them today, the first shmup, if you will. I know a lot of you guys don't like that term, but anyway, it was released in the arcades in 1981, programmed by the great Eugene Jarvis. An amazing guy. If you've seen his videos, you know what an upbeat, funny, and fun guy this dude is. The game was super intimidating back in 1981. I discovered it at the Land of Oz Mall Arcade in my hometown. And oh my gosh, just approaching this thing was super intimidating. Joystick, thrust, fire, hyperspace, smart bomb, reverse, 1-player, 2-player. So intimidating, so many buttons and so difficult. And there's got a radar screen. You need to know what's happening on the other side of the playfield that you can't currently see so your humanoids don't escape. It's an absolutely phenomenal shooter, wrap around, super inventive. What a great creation from Eugene Jarvis. Phenomenal. I've got my trusty Calico Vision version here that I have complete in the box that I bought factory sealed back in the day. And this is a really great port. I'm not going to show you every game I have for these games and franchises in my collection. We'd be here all day. I'll show you 2 of each. Some of the more interesting ones. Love this fantastic port from Atari Soft for the Calico Vision. It was so cool that Atari made games for the Calico Vision back in the day. That was so mind-blowing at the time. Fantastic port. Now, I've also got Defender port for the 2600. Now, this is not a great port. The ship blinks when you fire. The craggy mountains have been replaced by buildings, blocks, whatever. It's okay. I know a lot of people grew up loving this game. Not my favorite port. I prefer the ColecoVision and Atari 5200 versions, but I wanted to show this to you guys because it's factory sealed. Very cool. I may leave it that way, or I may break it open for you guys someday on a video just to see exactly what's inside and check it out. Defender had to make the cut, and you guys knew that one. I'm going in chronological order here. So next up, Shoplifter. Gosh, guys, Shoplifter for the Apple II in 1982. This was a phenomenal side-scrolling shooter. Again, now you rescue innocents along the ground, sort of a Defender vibe, but it's a much different game, and it was remade in the arcades in 1985, which is really astonishing because it's not that often when a home console game gets ported to the arcade. So that was pretty cool, or remade for the arcades, especially back then. That was awesome. The Atari 8-bit version is phenomenal. I have Shoplifter for the ColecoVision, of course. Want to show this off. Card only, still a cool port, and probably one of the better games for the Master System, Shoplifter. Solid port as well. My CRB copy with not only the manual, but this fold-out poster here that every cool kid needs in their bedroom or game room. Ta-da! Now, this was a real staple of computer gaming back in the day, and in fact, even though I'm mainly a console gamer, I did discover Shoplifter for the first time on a home computer. Don't ask me, it was probably 82 or 83. Don't ask me which computer or where I was at. I just remember it. That was a long time ago. Not a super distinct memory because I had played Defender before, but Shoplifter did stand out as an exceptional side-scrolling shooter. And it's just a fantastic game, and it's an early representation of a genre that still holds up today. And if you played Chopper Command on the 2600 by Activision, which was heavily influenced by Chopper Command, by Shoplifter, you will know what I'm talking about, this being a great game. Next up on my list is Moon Patrol. Yes, Moon Patrol. Been ported to countless systems. Came out in 1982 by Irem in Japan and Williams in the US. It was the first game with full parallax scrolling. There was a game called Jump Bug that had partial parallax scrolling, but Moon Patrol had full parallax scrolling, the first game of its type. It also had continues. You could feed more money into the machine and keep continuing the game, which was very unusual for the time. More importantly, it's an awesome game where you're shooting upward and straight ahead at enemies, and you're jumping. It's just a fantastic game. There's a lot of great ports for it. I particularly love the Atari 5200 version. Exceptional, and it was such a great upgrade over the 2600 version, which was also very solid. Now guys, I'm going to show you not another version of Moon Patrol, but a homebrew called Space Patrol, which is basically Moon Patrol because you do go to the moon. But guys, you go to other planets as well. How cool is that? And it is exceptional. If you want Moon Patrol basically on your television, try to seek out this game. It is phenomenal. From Left Turn Only, that does great games for sure. Moon Patrol, amazing. And like I said, it has been ported all over the place. Just, you know, for virtually every system. Not every system, but a ton. Guys, next up, you've got to mention Gradius. Anytime you're talking about popular, famous, iconic side-scrolling shooters, Konami released Gradius to the arcades in 1985, and there have been zillions of sequels, offshoots, and it's just a fantastic game. And one of the great things about it is the weapons bar at the bottom of the screen, where you select your weapon and you can upgrade and you can pick which weapon you want at, you know, depending on where you're at and what strategy you think is good. This was pretty unusual, pretty revolutionary at the time. It definitely upped the ante in terms of, you know, not just mindlessly shooting or not just dodging, not just, you know, hectic rapid fire. It also lent a bit of, you know, more slightly subtle strategy to the genre, which was awesome. And like I said, there's a million sequels, including Gradius 5 for the PS2. One of my favorite iterations in the Gradius series. Absolutely great. And you got to hand it to the NES Classic Gradius. Exceptional port and just a really great, one of the better side-scrolling shooters for the NES. The NES doesn't necessarily have a million side-scrolling shooters, but you definitely want that one. It's also got Defender. I love Defender on the NES. In addition to Stargate, I didn't even mention that Stargate was the great sequel to Defender. All the games on this list have offshoots and sequels and things like that, so it kind of goes without saying, if you're going to be an iconic video game, you better damn well have some sequels and offshoots. Next up, last but not least, and don't forget to hang on and watch John Hancock give his opinion where he disagrees with one of my choices. Next up is R-Type. Again, like Gradius, it's a modern-ish shooter. At least, you know, there are recent versions of this game. This game just continues on with lots of sequels. 1987, Irem released this in the arcades. It was actually the last arcade game distributed by Nintendo, so it has some historical importance there. It's got very detailed graphics, huge bosses. The Force weapon, which is a glowing orange ball of sorts that can attach to the front and the back of your ship, and that can fly freely around your ship as well. It's a fantastic weapon, very inventive, and you've seen, you know, other sort of versions of this for games to follow after R-Type. Anyway, there you go. 5 iconic side-scrolling shooters and side-scrolling shooter franchises. And John Hancock is going to weigh in here just a second. Just to recap, you got Defender, Shoplifter, Moon Patrol, Gradius, R-Type, huge side-scrolling shooter franchises. But the Immortal John Hancock disagrees with one of these choices, at least partially. He agreed with most of my list, but he just has a favorite here. And to be honest, the game John picks, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I just don't think it reaches the iconic level as far as being famous and well known and representative of the genre as this game, but I do have fond memories of this game. So let's hear from Mr. Hancock himself.
The Immortal John Hancock here, and Brett Weiss, what a great question. And I had to think about, do I agree with your picks for the all-time side-scrolling shooters? I would extend at least Gradius and R-Type to the series. As you know, I think of like R-Type Final, and there's even R-Type Final 2. Those are some later releases in the R-Type franchise that are amazing, and have some modern aspects to it that I enjoy and appreciate. Gradius 5 on, I do believe, the PlayStation 2, that was fantastic, and I remember when that was advertising at a Classic Gaming Expo. Just simply amazing, and I just love that, you know, that series for sure. Of the ones that you said, the one that I just don't like as much, and that's Moon Patrol. Now, Moon Patrol is ported to almost everything. You know, Moon Patrol had tons of ports. I would swap out Moon Patrol and put in Scramble. Scramble to me, you know, the mechanics of trying to, you know, take out enemies and avoid fire and add to your fuel. It just was, to me, much more intense. And I know Moon Patrol is probably more popular and was ported to everything, but I would swap out Scramble for the 5 that you recommended. But other than that, I'm in agreement.
All right, guys, there you go. I can hardly argue John's point with Scramble. It is an incredible game. It's colorful, it's fun, it's super intense when you're running out of fuel and have to get more, and it's just got a great balance. That's one thing about these games, they're very well balanced. They have few, if any, cheap deaths. They have excellent shooting action. They're exciting, they're intense, they're fair, they're very challenging. There's a lot going on at the screen at once, but they're not quite bullet hell, and they don't have, you know, a lot of cheapness to them. You feel like when you die, it's pretty much your fault, even though they get harrowing and they are super, super challenging and just awesome stuff, guys. So let me know in the comments, what are your picks? What are your top 5 most iconic side-scrolling or horizontal, however you want to say it, shooters of all time, shmups, if you will, just the side-scrolling type. I already did vertical scrolling. I will have a link there in the comments for you guys. Anyway, let me know. You can give me your top 5 list, or you can just give me, you know, ones you disagree with. Do you have 1 or 2 that should have taken its place? There are definitely ones that could make the cut. Darius, anyone I might add? Anyway, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And thank you to the Immortal John Hancock for weighing in on this oh so crucial issue. Thanks, guys. We will talk to you in another video. All these games on this list have offshits.
It's me, Mario!